Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. My name's Radha, and I'm here with our family of seekers, and we're reading through the Gita verse by verse, talking about its relevance to our lives, because it's still very relevant to our lives, right? It's spoken 5,000 years ago, over 5,000 years ago, and it's still just so relevant to our lives. It's timeless, which is kind of incredible, right? So, we are in chapter 8 today. Chapter 8 text. I think we're starting with 9. Chapter 8 text 9 is where we're starting. And this chapter again is about remembrance of Krishna. Right? That's really such a huge theme of this chapter. Remembrance of Krishna, especially remembrance of Krishna at the time of death. And we learned, what we're thinking about at the time of death determines our next destination, our soul's next destination, right? Because our soul is eternal and it's on a multi-life journey of spiritual evolution, right? So whatever we're thinking at the time of death determines its next destination. What we're thinking about at the time of death is not just random, right? It's what we have cultivated through our lifetimes, right? What we value most and what we've thought about most throughout our lifetimes, right? So this chapter we talk a lot about how we can prepare for that moment, and in doing that, develop a relationship with God, right? So that at that final moment, we're thinking about God, right? And we're ready to go back home, right? We're not fearful or, in denial or all of these things that we see, right? We're peaceful, right? And we're connected and we're ready, right? So in this chapter, we're starting with text 9 today. And if we remember, the sixth chapter was about Ashtanga yoga, right? The yoga where yogis go out into a secluded place in the forest. They withdraw all of their senses. They bring everything in, right? And then they meditate on God, right? It's very austere. It takes a lot of discipline. It's difficult in this day and age, if not impossible, really, for most of us. So we talked about the Ashtanga yoga in the sixth chapter. And now we're in the bhakti section, right? In the seventh chapter, we really laid out the bhakti yoga practice. Now, in the eighth chapter, Krishna is kind of going to bring Ashtanga back a little bit and talk about having like bhakti mixed with Ashtanga, right? We talked about how we're all kind of like mixed bags and practicing different yogic paths. So now we're Krishna's going to kind of compare bhakti and Ashtanga a little bit, and I won't give too much away. That's kind of what we're getting into here. So we're starting with the ninth text, but before we do that, Shakti, can you do our prayers for us?
My honor. Thank you. Om Jnana Timirandasya Inanjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kairam Mayam Dandati Sva Pandatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savarhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitams Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancha Garungi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Prananami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavem Vyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Guru Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Shakti. Okay, so let's just get right into it. I'll share my screen. And Stella, when you're ready, could you read verse 9 to us?
Sure. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature.
Such a sweet verse, right?
Mm.
Yeah, here he's giving us 10 ways to meditate on him, right? Like meditating on him as the possessor of these specific qualities helps us to realize him as super soul, as God in the heart, right? Whom yogis meditate on as the goal of their yoga practice, right? So Krishna's discussing bhakti, but it's like we said earlier, bhakti mixed with aspirations of a yogi seeking liberation from the cycle of birth and death. So it's yoga mixed with bhakti. If you remember in the last class, we talked about how there's different kinds of bhakti. There's like pure bhakti, there's bhakti mixed with other things, right? More so there's like more than 50% of bhakti, and then the rest is like other things, right? And then there's less than 50% of bhakti, and then the rest is other things. Okay, so here he's talking about a person who's practicing bhakti, but it's mixed with yoga, right? And when he's speaking in this verse, he's speaking from the yogi's point of view. So he's not saying like I am all of these things, right? And instead, he's describing how the yogis meditate on the absolute truth, right? And in just a few verses, he's gonna reveal that they're actually meditating on him. But right now, he's speaking in a way that matches the seeker's current level of realization, right? So that's kind of how we're bringing it back here to the Ashtanga yoga practice. And what we're going to see, which is really beautiful, we're going to see how, if we remember the 8 limbs of Ashtanga yoga, right? And how, and at the very end, at the 8th limb, right? The Ashtanga yogis are focusing on the supreme, right? And what Krishna is going to do for us here is show us how, you can go through this whole Ashtanga yoga practice to get to that place. Or you could just take the elevator ride up for the bhakti elevator ride up and get right there by thinking of the supreme, right? So showing us how we're both going to kind of arrive at the same place, but again, ultimately, we know this Ashtanga yoga practice is a really difficult one, right? If it's even possible. So that's kind of where he's going in this section of this chapter. But along the way, he'll reveal more things to us as well, right? So he describes the supreme person as has these 10 qualities, and let's just kind of like tap our toes, dip our toes into each of these qualities, right? And he says if we think of these qualities, they help us meditate on God and realize God in our hearts, right? So the first, so Krishna knows everything. Right? Krishna knows past, present, future. Right? Let that land a little bit for you. Like you have a best friend who lives inside your heart, who knows past, who knows present, who knows future. Right? Like this should make us both humble and like feel like comforted, right? Because we can't hide anything from God. Right? He already knows. He knows everything. He knows our weaknesses, he knows our faults, right? But at the same time, he's our greatest protector. And he's our greatest well-wisher. Right inside our hearts. And he sees everything, yet he's still lovingly guiding and safeguarding us. It's such a beautiful quality. So comforting. and humbling. Right? Krishna is described as the oldest person, right? But not in the sense of like a physical age necessarily, but meaning he's eternally wise, right? Like in our world, we respect people who are experienced. Like if your doctor has 20 years of experience, you feel like you're in good hands, right? Like he must know what he's doing. So similarly, Krishna, he's the source of all wisdom, right? He's the one who has seen and sustained everything, like lifetime after lifetime. Right? He's the controller of everything. Right? Sometimes we'll hear like not even a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. Right? Think about that as you're moving around your day. Right? Everything is being sanctioned by the Lord. Right? And sometimes we think like how does that make sense when we see so many bad things happen around us all the time? And in this we have to understand that Krishna doesn't want bad things to happen. Right? He doesn't make bad things happen, but he gives us free will because he loves us, and he sanctions that. Right? So people make choices. Krishna allows them to exercise that free will. He still remains the ultimate overseer. Right? So he's really just like sanctioning the soul's desire. Right? And then this was a fun one. This when he says he's smaller than the smallest. So this is kind of like unbelievable, right? Because he's everything. He can be smaller than this. He's gonna be the supreme controller, the supreme maintainer, and be smaller than the smallest. Right? And this is kind of cool because it challenges our conception of like what's powerful, right? Because we tend to think that like control requires like size or it's like someone big, distant, untouchable. Right? But Krishna like flips that idea. He's not only vast and all powerful, like he is those things, but he's also intimately close. Right? Like residing right in our hearts. Right? Even like a microbe, he's right inside the heart. Like even if the organism doesn't have like a physical heart, right? When we say heart, it really refers to like the seat of awareness, like the center of emotion. Right? Wherever that center is for a living being, Krishna's there too. Right? So this means he's the constant companion of every soul. Right? The closest friend we'll ever have. Wherever that soul goes, Krishna goes. Right? If the soul takes birth in a human form, he's there. If it's in like a tiny microscopic body, he's there. Right? So this is why the scriptures describe him as greater than the greater and smaller than the smallest. Right? Like the entire universe comes from him, yet he's present in like even the tiniest parts. Right? And then the last one here that we'll talk about is the maintainer of everyone. He's a maintainer of everyone. Right? We like to think I'm maintaining myself, right? I'm independent. Right? My job provides for me. My money secures me. Right? And like practically that's true at one level, but it's not the ultimate truth. Right? That's like a child thinking that like they get their food from the refrigerator and so therefore they've got it all figured out, right? Like, oh, I know where to get my food. I go right to the refrigerator and it's there. I'm so independent, right? Where it's like, no, we know that the parents stock that refrigerator, right? So even when we think we're maintaining ourselves, it's our needs are being stocked by Krishna, right? Even the wealthiest people in the world will face illness, age, death, right? Our maintenance is not really in our hands. It's us thinking that we have control. It's like a child thinking that they have control. It's cute. It's cute because when you as an adult have a more evolved perspective, you see that it's limiting and therefore it's kind of endearing, right? So that's kind of where we are relative to God, right? He's maintaining us. He's the controller. He's sanctioning everything. Yet we think that we have control, right? I was just talking to my mom. She has an autoimmune, and she was saying she used to eat so healthy. I think I've shared this before. She used to eat so healthy, and now she still eats pretty healthy, but not quite as like strict as she used to. And she's saying, yeah, I'm just kind of mad at my body because I did everything I was supposed to, and I still got this autoimmune. And I was telling her, it's not, we're not the controllers. You can't think that your body, we can't blame our bodies, right? We do our best, but we have to ultimately understand that it's not in our hands. It's not in our hands. And everything, and what's going on here, what's at play, it's the universal laws are much bigger than we, right? When we think about karma, right? When we think about God's will, just those two variables, right? It's not just our effort that is determining our fate. It's God's will, it's karma, right? And then our effort plays a role, but it's absolutely not the sole variable. Right? So we have to have the bigger picture, the zoomed out picture. Right? So yeah, this is pretty like magnificent, right? That Krishna can be all of these things, right? Smaller than the smallest, supreme controller, maintainer, right? And um, it's described this word. It's called achinta, this inconceivable, right? That's a word we use to describe like how magnificent that it is that Krishna can be all of these things. Right? It's the Gita explains that this is by the inconceivable energy of the Supreme Lord. Right? That word achinta literally means beyond thought or beyond human conception. And that's why it's also kind of like fun to think about, right? It's either fun to think about or it's like incredibly uncomfortable, right? If you're not comfortable with like your conceptions being challenged, right? Or if you're a personality that is, and that's fun, then it's fun. Right? But regardless, it's beyond thought. It's beyond our conception. Right? God's energy operates far beyond the reach of our logic or reasoning. Right? And why wouldn't it? Right? Why wouldn't it when we're like these little finite creatures? Right? Why would we think that we've got it all figured out? Right? When we start having that conception, then we're putting ourselves at the center of the universe. Right? And the reality is like we can't even fully comprehend this small material universe. Like, how could we even expect to understand what lies beyond it? Right? So that's what this word means. This is a nice word. We can remember this word, achinta. Right? It means things that our mind can't grasp, that which lie outside of argument or logic or speculation. And this is Krishna's power. Right? It's not just vast, it's beyond our imagination. Right? How he simultaneously pervades everything, and yet he remains completely independent from it. Right? Like he holds the planets in space. Think about that. How perfectly the planets are like suspended in space. Right? He sustains every living being, right? But he still lives inside each of us as a dearest friend. Right? So this is the wonder of his nature. He's both infinite, he's intimate. He's both the cosmic creator and the personal companion. Right? Okay, so bringing this back to the yogis, when we were talking about Ashtanga yogi, and we're talking about Ashtanga yoga here. When a yogi meditates on him in this way, right? Not just as an abstract truth, but a living, loving person, right? Their heart starts to transform. Right? And this is what we're going to talk about in the coming verses here in this section. So this is kind of where again we're bringing the path of Ashtanga yoga. The path of Ashtanga yoga and the path of bhakti yoga are meeting. Different ways of getting there. Like Ashtanga yoga is like it's a tough one. And again, bhakti yoga is like the elevator ride up. But we're getting to that place and the focus is on remembrance. The focus is on remembrance. Anybody like to share anything that came up for them with that verse?
I was thinking of the little no-see-ums that you walk into a cloud of. They're so tiny and you could barely see them individually. And yet Krishna's in the heart of every single one.
Mm.
Like sometimes that we don't even, we walk through the world with, there's so many living entities, and Krishna's with every single one of them. That's just astounding to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, my boss who is, I think I've talked about him before. I've been a devotee for like 30 years. Was one of the first disciples of my guru. Was like, he's very evolved. We were meeting with an architect, and I was wearing this coat, and this bug came and landed on my shoulder. And I didn't even notice, but the architect that we were talking about, he's like, "Oh, there's a bug on your shoulder." And he like flicked it off like we do, you know? And like my initial reaction was just like, oh, "Okay, that's normal." But I saw my boss like go like really try to see what happened to that bug. Like he was very concerned about that bug, you know? And I was thinking, wow, yeah, like that's how we should be with every living being if we have that vision that God is inside of them. Right? If when we have that vision that God is inside of them, that is how we will be. Right? Yeah. My conditioning is like, oh, that's just a bug, right? Who cares? That's just a tiny little bug. Right? But no, God is inside every living being. Katie, please share with us.
Good morning, Haribol.
Good morning.
I'm not really thinking how to connect these, but they came to mind, so I'll mention them. Uh, Rukmini was saying in a Kartik mood class recently, I think, about this like idea of sacred smallness, which I found like such a wonderful thought and reminder, and a reminder to be humble um, and realize like what is not ours and what has helped us so much and we're not doing on our own, and like that compared to like actual people whose mode is like I want to, who even says out loud, what really gets me going is being better than others. And I was like,
Mm,
wow. So I came across like both of those within a span of like 2 days. And I thought, my goodness, what an example of like ways that really distance and make things competitive. And I'm so glad that's not our vibe in Krishna consciousness. And then also uh listening with the Bhagavatam about like how like Krishna chooses these examples, and in the Gita is the chariot driver, and I think again in some other, I don't know, and pardon me if I'm wrong, but again like that Arjuna's, or maybe someone else's chariot driver, but um and how that's like such a humble position because it involves like someone pushing you with your, like touching you with their feet, I think,
mm,
and just how like Krishna wants to be the biggest, like the best servant of his servants. And it's
mm,
such a, we're so in relationship with Krishna and trying to kind of do that for each other.
mm.
And it's such an example for us, of course. And Krishna is the best example of everything. Um, it's interesting how these things, like you hear them, it's arranged, where we hear them within like days of each other, and can kind of think, wow, these things help link and help support
Mm.
our realizations. Yeah.
Yeah, really nice. Thank you. It's amazing, like spiritual principles, flip material conceptions, like upside down,
Yeah.
right? Because just like you said, like we're not comfortable with being small. Like what makes me happy is proving that I'm the biggest, that I'm the best, right? And in the process of that, putting everyone else down so that I can feel like, I got it all
Yeah.
figured out and they don't,
Yeah. And
right?
even when people don't say that out loud, like the people around experience it,
Feel it.
and it's hard not to resent, but it's also useful to learn about and learn from, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a disconnecting energy. And it stems from a person that's disconnected,
Yeah.
right? So, but when we think that being smaller than the small, it's like yeah, that's that's pretty small, but it's still great because God's great and God's inside of us. Right? And really, I mean, we're all smaller than just like you said, in that perspective, we're all smaller than the smallest. And that's a wonderful thing. Yeah. Thank you. Shakti.
Hare Krishna, everybody. So I'm in this training. Doesn't matter what kind of training, but I'm in this training, and there's 6 of us. And when the teacher asks, oh, let's do, what do you think we should do? Whatever. There's this one person who's like, we should do da da. And I'm like, and then at first it was happened yesterday, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And then she's like, what poses would you put into this? How would we make this work? We should do that. We should do, and he just kept giving, like, it was a group thing that we were going to put together, like, because I love that. I love a group thing, and we all work together and we make this kind of individual ideas. But I could see that wasn't like this person's thought process. So at first I went to go say something, and then he yelled, not yelled, but like, because he was in the back, he just yelled it out before, said it out before I did. And I thought, you know what? At first, like Katie, you were saying, like, or maybe it was Radha, like resentment and all of that. I didn't get that. I just thought, okay, if he wants to tell us how it all should be, because he knows better than all of us, fantastic. Have at it. And we'll just work from there. And it's like it's that similar thing that you guys are talking about, where like this person thinks they know it all, this is how it all should go, everybody follow me because I am the Pied Piper. And it was like, okay. And so for the like, I'm not often am I in I was just in the mood. I was just like, okay, we'll figure it out, and I'll put my input in when it seems to be welcome. So it's like, but it was just an accurate vision of someone who completely thinks they know it all. They know how it should be. This is how it should go. Everybody follow my lead. And it
Mm.
was like I just kind of, I think everyone sort of let him do it, and we just sort of, for me, I had a different vision just because of what I study with you guys. And I just thought, okay, let's see how it goes, and we'll do that, and maybe it will work, I don't know. But like, I didn't have the urge, which is rare. I have to be honest and tell on myself to say, wait a minute, like, I know better, right?
Mm.
That I know how it should be. Wait a minute, let me say something. And it's like, I
Mm.
didn't have that urge. I was like, it's okay. And so that for me was like definitely growth. And I think it's exciting just to feel those
Mm.
things within ourselves, when, like you said, the flicking of the bug, like noticing, I have that. I don't want to have that. That's the only
Mm.
way we can change, is noticing. Like, I noticed my immediate, not resent, but my immediate competitive nature kind of
Mm.
come in. And I thought, that's all right. I'm just going to sit back. It's all good. And I really felt like totally okay with it. But that's only because every Monday and Thursday I come here. I've got,
Mm.
I listen to Rukmini's talk as well. Like, that's because I have all these really, um, you know, beautiful people in my life that help me learn and grow and change. And I have to never forget that. I have to never forget that it's not me, it's Krishna, but it's the devotees that I associate with that teach me. And for that, I know Krishna has put that in my life, and that I'm always grateful for.
Mm. Yes. Thank you, Shakti. Yeah, these needs to feel validated, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel like you got it. It is easy to kind of feel a little frustrated or resentment towards when we see those kinds of characteristics in people. But just like you said, yeah, we should understand that it's just an illusion, right? It's just a testament of of distance between real understanding. Right? And that real understanding is that we're all part and parcel of God, right? And we all have inherent value. Right? We don't have to be anything more. We don't have to prove anything. Right? We just have to remember who we actually are. And when we do, just like Shakti's saying, we no longer have to prove that we're right, right? And that the other person is wrong or that we're better. Right? That's just material consciousness, and ultimately it's suffering. So yeah, it's beautiful to have these experiences where we see how far our perception has come, and and really again that's just a testament to our relationship with our relationship with God getting stronger. And just like you said, it's Krishna's mercy that that's available for us. So yes, thank you. Beautiful realizations come from these meditations. Okay, should we move on to text 10? Oh, I clicked the wrong button. Whenever you're ready, Stella.
One who, at the time of death, fixes his life air between the eyebrows, and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you. Okay, so remember we're talking about this Ashtanga yoga path, and Krishna's getting us there, showing us how ultimately we're getting to that same place that we do in bhakti, right? But along the way, we're learning a lot of valuable nuggets, right? And we hear in this passage how much just focus and determination this meditation takes, right? Where a lot of times we I don't know about you guys, but it's common to think of meditation as like a break, right? Like an escape from the stress of like work or family or daily responsibilities, right? But the reality is that real meditation, it's not a break from hard work, it's just a different kind of work. It's the work of purifying the mind. And again, sometimes we think it's like wasting time because we have so many other things that we need to get done, right? But this investment in purifying the mind, honestly, there's like not really anything more important, right, than the purification of the mind that comes if we're really putting the work into our meditation. If we're really making the effort. Bhakti will definitely bring relaxation, right? But the relaxation comes after purification, right? After the mind becomes peaceful. After our mind's purified, our minds becomes peaceful, then the rest of our lives become peaceful, right? Because that's where it all starts, right? That's what's manifesting our reality, right? And how does the mind become peaceful? By becoming clean inside, right? Free from those things that agitate the mind, those inner disturbances, right? Like lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, illusion, right? So when we're practicing meditation and we're putting the work in, those things will start to fade, right? The mind will become calm and steady. And then that's why we chant. That's what chanting does, right? Every time we chant sincerely, we're scrubbing away these layers of impurity, right? And as the heart becomes clean, peace naturally follows, right? So we can't expect the mind to be peaceful without first being purified. Because any kind of peace that we get in this world that's just based off of our externals is ultimately going to be temporary, right? That's not real steady peace. Real steady peace comes from the inside, right? Because if you're steady on the inside, then you can go anywhere outside and you're still steady, right? But if your peace is coming from like going to the spa and getting a facial and a massage, nothing wrong with, by the way, both those things are wonderful. But if that's the only way that you can find peace, it's going to be temporary and it's going to be expensive. It's going to be pretty expensive. Right? So as yogis here, we're in the practice of finding this peace inside. Right? So then we can carry it with us whenever we go. Isn't that like a better bargain? Right? Like if you're going to Costco and it's like, okay, different flavors of peace. Do you want to purchase this inside piece or this outside piece? Right? It's like, no, this inside piece is going to last longer, right? It's going to be steadier, right? It's got like an end, like the battery life just is endless. Right? It goes on forever. You don't even have to recharge it. It's just going, right? So that's what we're aspiring for, this insights piece, and we get that from this purification, and the purification takes effort, right? So we should just understand that. If we think that it doesn't, if we think that it's just there, it's just meditation is just supposed to be relaxing, and it can actually become very frustrating, right? Because when we sit to meditate or chant and we expect just to be instantly calm, that's not what's going to happen, right? Our mind's going to run wild. Then we're going to get disappointed. Then we're going to feel like I can't focus. I can't do this, right? Then it's boring or it's burdensome. Right? So we have to have proper expectations around what meditation is and what it isn't, right? It's hard work. Expect it to be difficult. Expect it to be difficult, but expect it to be rewarding if you stick to the practice sincerely. Right? Because this is how we attain this place of steady peace. Right? So we need to learn to see it as a rewarding challenge. Right? It's going to build, it's going to purify our heart from within. It's going to steady the mind. It's going to connect us to God, right? And that's what makes it rejuvenating, right? Not because it's effortless, but because it's transformative, right? So it takes practice. And what we're seeing here, different yogis have different techniques, but all of them do require some consistent effort, right? So in the previous verse, in 8:7, Krishna tells Arjuna, always think of me and do your duty. Right? Now, in this verse, he's explaining how that remembrance becomes steady. And that's through this yoga practiced with devotion. Right? So even this Ashtangi yogi who follows this more disciplined and kind of mechanical path ultimately needs bhakti, right? The surrender and love that connects us to the Supreme Person. Right? That's what we're seeing here. Again, we're kind of bringing them together. One of the limbs of Ashtanga yoga is to surrender to the controller, right? That's bhakti. Right? When the element of devotion enters, right? When remembrance becomes loving and steady, right? The prana, the life air, naturally becomes situated between the eyebrows, right? And the consciousness rises towards Krishna. So the Ashtanga yoga, it's very mechanical. I was actually reading, like, there's all these different chakras in the body. Anybody who's studied like a yoga teacher training, or right, we have different chakras, right? Different like centers for prana. And the Ashtanga yoga practice is moving that prana up, right? Ultimately, they bring it up to their skull, and really advanced yogis, when they can choose when to leave their bodies, they bring the prana up, and that prana like breaks apart their skull as their soul is leaving their body. It's like, but anyway, the point is, like, wherever your prana is, if your prana is down low, right, then your soul will exit through that, and and it determines your destination. Like if it's lower, that's associated with lower consciousness, and you'll get, your destination will be associated with a lower consciousness than like up here when it's between your eyebrows. So that's why I always say through your eyebrows, because that's like the highest, where the highest chakra is. You bring the prana up, and that's associated with the highest consciousness. Anyway, it's very technical, it's very mechanical, this Ashtanga yoga practice. But the point that we're seeing here is that in bhakti yoga, we get to the same thing by chanting Hare Krishna, right? That's what we're given in this bhakti yoga path. We say God's names, right? God's names are the same as God, right? And in that, we become purified, and we associate with God, right? And so it's when Ashtanga yogis are bringing this prana all the way up, right, through their skull, and we're chanting Hare Krishna, and ultimately they're bringing the prana up, right, and they're remembering God. We're chanting Hare Krishna, right? So that's what we're seeing here. Does this make sense? There's a little bit of a tangent of Ashtanga yoga, but I thought that was kind of interesting with the different chakras. And it's so nice we don't have to worry about that though, right? Because it would be like so far beyond our actual capabilities in this life. I don't know, mine anyway. Mariah, please share with us.
Yes, what you're saying does make sense. And I'm so glad how you brought up like meditating, it's still work. It's not just like an escape from reality. And, we have to find that peace from within. And, but I recently I've been reading a little bit in Bhagavad Gita and other places too. And this idea of like impersonal versus personal has been coming up a lot. And when we're just meditating on the impersonal or the void, it's so much harder, right? Like Prabhupada tells us this, but I'm like in my stage of life where I'm having a deeper realization of this. And so when you brought that up, you're like, we get that peace from within, and it's not just to escape from reality and like have a quiet moment. That's part of it, but it's also so we can carry it with us. And then reconnecting Prabhupada's peace formula, where Krishna is our best friend in our heart. What better to take with you on your daily life when you're going through all the stresses of life to remember Krishna? And that's what Krishna tells us too here in Gita. Remember him while we're doing our duties. Like we don't need, we take that time to have the quiet space so we can strengthen our mind to remember him. But then remembering him instead of like, okay, I'm stressed out. Okay, I need to pause. I need to breathe. Yes, those are good. But you can also just, okay, Krishna's my best friend and he's with me and I'm stressed out right now, but he's with me and I'm going to get through this. It's so much nicer. It's so much sweeter to be able to think of a person is actually with you. He's actually with us in those moments. He's holding our hand through that stress, like, I don't know. I'm really like having that deeper realization and, like Shakti said, it's like because we're doing these classes, because we're taking the time to remember him, we can remember him in the stress. And it's just easier. It's better. It's nicer. It's sweeter. Like, yeah, God's a person. He's with us. We don't have to we don't have to try so hard ourselves. Okay, I need to stop. I need to breathe. I need to block everybody out. No, I just need to bring Krishna in and be like, Krishna's with me. I can handle this. And yeah, it's just a sweeter thing. So that was just coming to me, and I just wanted to share that.
Wow. I'm so grateful for all of your deeper realizations, Mariah, because we all benefit.
It's from all of you nourishing me. Thank you. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Yeah. How many times in that moment when we're stressed or when we're feeling overwhelmed, are we reaching for something external? And I just need this. Just give me a fix of this. Sometimes when I'm really tired and I just want to shut off, I'm like, I need television. That's actually been my Kartik Vrata is to replace any television I watch with classes,
Mm.
which is actually so nice, by the way. But what happens is it's just easy. It's just easy to reach for those things. And then it reinforces, like the idea that this is what soothes me, right? I just need to get away. I just need to, not that those things aren't useful sometimes, but if we're really remembering, that's like the deeper solution, right? That's like the other things can be kind of like band-aids, which can be helpful. But in the long run, if we remember, just like you said, if we remember that God's our best friend, that God's with us all the time, that God doesn't give us anything that we can't handle, right? And he helps us handle it, right? He's there for us. Right? Then we don't even have to spend money or time or energy on all of the other things. Right? It's like, oh, this is actually all that we need. This is the peace formula.
Yeah.
This is the best bargain.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
thank you.
Like really having that, like Krishna's really giving me a deeper realization of it. And I'm really like, I don't know, just like yesterday and today, I'm like really feeling it. Like, wow, Krishna's, and I'm like remembering times when I've remembered that and the peace you do feel. Because it's like, and I don't have to like sit quietly. I can feel it in a conversation, like Krishna's with me. I can feel it while I'm baking in the kitchen. Krishna's with me. Like, to really have that deeper realization, the little bits that I get of it, it's like, wow, your body can just relax for a second. Like I'm wound up. Like, not gonna lie, I don't know if maybe I don't come off that way sometimes. But sometimes I'm like, hello, I'm tense, When I really feel like, wow, Krishna's with me, I'm like, oh, I can breathe. Okay, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow, we're all wound up, by the way. We're all wound up.
it's
But
my
it's nice to
culture. It's like,
yeah, when somebody who really carries Krishna around with them doesn't need to prove, right? Doesn't need to speak like Shakti was talking about, doesn't need to all of the things. It just like it goes away and we are peaceful. And I love what you said too about personal versus impersonal. I used to meditate on an impersonal mantra for a few years before I got the Hare Krishna mantra, and I found a lot of peace. But what I didn't find was the connection. And the connection is what is like a turbo to a spiritual life, to in my experience.
yeah,
Yeah, that the personal conception, the personal relationship with God, it's what we're all looking for and maybe didn't even really realize.
yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. So nice, Mariah. Stella, what do you have for us? There you go.
I just love what Mariah said. I really I mean that's the most personal kind of realization, like to just affectionately remember that your best friend is always with you. Like, I mean, that's like it seems like the MO of the whole Gita, just that one thing. Like, if we could just do that one thing, we'll be safe and good, even if we're in the, deepest dungeon of an enemy, like like we're good, we could just remember that. Yeah, I also when I was just remembering this verse always reminds me um of when I didn't when I was 13, 12, and 13. My brother gave me a book about Buddha, and I used to listen to music and just I don't know how I knew this. It wasn't in the book. It was just like a little sayings book that was a really tiny little book. But I used to sit and try to bring my consciousness up to my head. And I don't know how I knew that. It's probably from a former life or something that I was just this impersonal yogi. But even as a child, like I wanted, it was like I let the body not feel anything. And I felt like I could jump off. And
Wow.
when I came to Krishna consciousness and read all about this stuff, I was like really spooked because it's like, how did I know that? Like, but it must have been from a former life, um, which makes me think that maybe that was impersonal or something. I don't know, but um, it's it always reminds me of when I used to do that, which it wasn't out of trying to escape. It just felt like something I could do, and it was always after I had looked at that book and looked at the little statue he gave me. So it's funny how God works through these
Yeah.
things, like preparing me. It really felt like that was God preparing me um, to hear this verse.
Yeah. That's amazing. And that's a lot of what these other paths are. And that's what Krishna's trying to even show us here. Right? Is they're preparing us,
Yeah,
meeting us where we are. But ultimately, if we follow it to its to its fruition, will bring us back to him. I mean that's the point.
yeah.
They don't have to, but they can, and that's his intention.
And we can make a choice.
And we can make the choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nice. Thank you. Thank you, Shakti. Okay, should we do one more? It's very short. Do this. We'll do one more. We'll do 11. Oh, did I share my wrong screen? Let's see here. Okay, when you're ready, Shakti.
Oh, you want to check? Should I read?
Yeah, 11.
Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation.
Thank you. This yogic practice is like so mystical that it's like kind of attractive in that way, isn't it? It's like wow. And so here Krishna's describing the traditional path of yoga, right? The kind followed by great sages and renunciants. That's what we're talking about here. They study the Vedas, they chant Om, they practice celibacy, right? They live in a renounced life, free from worldly attachments. Right? And this is how they reach perfection. Right? So in other words, before even beginning the process of yoga, one is expected to have certain qualifications, right? Self-control, detachment, scriptural knowledge, discipline. Right? And this is showing us again this classic system of meditation, this Ashtanga yoga practice is not easy. It demands a level of renunciation that's very hard to maintain while living in the world, right? With families, responsibilities, daily pressures, right? So he's mentioning these things here to set the stage for the next few verses, where he's going to briefly explain what this process looks like and eventually show why the bhakti yoga path is just so much more accessible for us, for most of us. Right? So this verse is reminding us again, this is yoga, it's real work. It's not casual or part-time practice. It takes determination, purity, discipline. Right? These things we're expected to live as a brahmachari, to practice celibacy, study, simplicity, right? To focus from a very young age, right? Which is now like almost impossible, right? The world has changed so much. Our education system, our society, it no longer supports this level of discipline and detachment. Right? So while the principles of yoga are still true, Krishna's gradually leading us to a higher, sweeter path, and that's the path of bhakti. Right? It doesn't depend on isolation or extreme austerity. Right? It's just remembrance and love. This is the path of bhakti. We're so fortunate that we have this opportunity to jump into the elevator in this age. Right? We don't have to like climb up this insane mountain and of some of these other paths that are just so much more difficult. Because ultimately that's where they're leading them, right? To this place of remembrance and love. Right? And that's why Lord Chaitanya came, he knows the challenges of this age. He gave us a practical and a merciful process for spiritual advancement. And that is the chanting of the holy names, right? This is why we chant God's names. We talked about how powerful chanting is in our last class, right? It purifies the heart, it steadies the mind, right? We can reach the same perfection that these yogis once strove for through lifetimes of discipline, right? Just by that association with God, because the name and God are the same. And that's, we're associating with God. We're becoming purified, right? So that's the essence of yoga, right? And it's made accessible to us through love and through sound. Right? So that's what we're seeing here. And we should all be so grateful and not take it for granted. Right? Not take it for granted that we have something like the holy name in our practices. Does anybody want to share anything? If not, I could do one more verse because they're pretty short, these processes. You want to do one more verse? Get through 4? Let's do one more. When you're ready, Stella.
The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga.
Thank you. So this is again kind of what we were talking about with the different chakras and the prana in the body, moving the prana up, goes through the head, right? So he's giving us a glimpse of what this actual yoga state looks like, right? And he says that this true yogi withdraws the senses from external things, right? Sound, sights, taste, touch, right? And they turn the awareness completely inwards, right? And this stage is called pratyahara, right? It's the fifth limb of the Ashtanga yoga practice, right? You're pulling your senses inwards. Right? It's not about shutting the world out in frustration, but about redirecting energy inward away from distractions, right? Towards the self, towards the supreme. Right? So Krishna says the yogi fixes the mind on the heart. And once again, this is not referring to like a physical organ, but again, the seat of emotion, right? Where the soul resides. So to fix the mind on the heart means to center the mind on the soul, to remember, I'm not this body, I'm a spiritual being, right? Then the yogi raises the life air, the prana, to the top of the head. This signifies that their consciousness is like completely uplifted, right? It's no longer tied to material desires or bodily identifications, right? And this is the yogic state that Krishna is describing here. You know, a mind withdrawn from the senses. Mind withdrawn from the senses, centered in the heart, elevated towards higher consciousness, right? And then in the next verse, Krishna is going to explain what happens next, right? When the consciousness, where the consciousness goes once the yogi is fully situated in this state, right? So again, in bhakti yoga, when we chant God's names, we develop a relationship with God, right? When we become attached to God, we naturally become detached from material to material energy. Right? We naturally become detached and we become attached to God. Here in yoga, again, this yoga practice, it's very mechanical. Right? They're withdrawing, right? They're becoming renounced, and then they're bringing the energy up, and ultimately they're going to focus on the supreme. So different paths to get to this place. Does anybody gosh, I'm tempted to do one more because it concludes this section and it's very short. What do you guys feel about just 2 more minutes just to finish this Ashtangi yoga section?
Sure.
Yeah? Okay, let's do it. Let's do this last one. 13.
Oops. There we go. 13. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the pinnacle. This is where it's all going, right? This is where he's putting the process together. He's saying if after practicing yoga, if one chants the sacred syllable Om, right, and simultaneously remembers the Supreme Person, that person will reach the spiritual realm. Right? And it's not that someone just focuses on the word Om, right? But Krishna's saying it's not like just the sound that's delivering us, it's the consciousness behind it. Right? Because this Om represents the supreme absolute truth. Right? But and this is to reach the spiritual world, right? But to reach the spiritual world, we have to remember that absolute is personal. Right? To reach the spiritual world, bhakti has to be kind of like sprinkled in to whatever practice we're doing. Right? So chanting Om is powerful, but when it's done with remembrance of Krishna, the supreme person, then it becomes complete, right? Then it takes us to the spiritual world. So that's where the bhakti comes in. Right? And bhakti just means fixing the mind on God with love and devotion. Right? So when the goal is to fix the mind on him, right? The way to do that might vary, right? One may practice the eightfold path of Ashtanga yoga, right? Or one can practice the elevator ride of bhakti, right? I call it the elevator ride, right? But in both paths, the common thread is this remembrance of Krishna. And when you can put that in, that's what makes all the difference. thinking of God with love and devotion in the heart. That's what makes all the distance. That's what takes your soul to the highest destination. Right? And so when a person leaves with that remembrance, right, filled with devotion, chanting Om, filled with devotion, that person attains the supreme destination. Right? So the essence of this verse in this section is that yoga mixed with bhakti leads to perfection. But it's the bhakti element, the remembrance of God with love and devotion that ultimately carries us home. Right? So here Krishna has described one way to remember him at the time of death, right? Through yoga mixed with devotion. Next, he's going to explain another way, and that's what we'll get into the next section. That's through the direct process of pure devotional service, right? The path of the heart. That's the elevator ride. We'll really zoom into that. So he's just giving us different perspectives to show, again, like the major zoomed out perspective here, to show how these paths can take us to the same place, right? And why ultimately bhakti is the recommended path for this age. Yes, so that is the section on yoga mixed with bhakti. And do we have any final reflections before we end for the day?
Yeah, I might be giving away the next path here, but I just want to say it's like, yeah, we're seeing this way of, withdrawing the senses, detaching purposefully or consciously from external activities, which is kind of very difficult in this day and age. And we still the goal is at the end of it to try and remember the Supreme Lord, right? But then Prabhupada came and our spiritual teachers come and they give us such a sweet movement to join where we don't have to necessarily detach our senses so much. We actually just have to engage them, right? Like how sweet. Engage them in engage in the dancing, engage in tasting Krishna's prasadam. And so I'm probably giving a hint away of the next path, but I'm at the place in my life where I'm really understanding how sweet this process is, how beautiful this process is of like, yeah, you don't have to try so hard to like sit and meditate and detract your senses. Just engage them in Krishna's activities and it's even sweeter and better. Like, so yeah, I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
That was the essence of the whole class today. That was the essence, what we're supposed to take from it. So that was perfect. Thank you so much, Mariah. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my friends, that's all for today. Sorry, we kind of sped through that a little, but it's good to have it all in one class. We can really see this yoga mixed with bhakti process where it's taken us, and it'll prepare us perfectly for the next class. So thank you all for coming, and I look forward to seeing you on Thursday.